Three, two, sending request.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Alternative Interactions. And
Plutonic planes with Meten.
um, this is our part three, talking about money. Um, and not just talking about money, but looking at the astrology that goes with this at the moment. And from our parts one and part two, I think we're really building up really nicely at the moment, aren't we, Meten? I mean, it looks like we're really onto something now with the energies and what's coming up. And so we've got some charts. Meten's done some amazing charts, which he's going to talk to us. He's going to explain more about what the planets do and mean. And obviously for me, who's pretty pants at that will be a real big help. And obviously I'll be interjecting on what I see. And so Meten, take it away.
All right, so I'm going to layer it for you guys. So it may be something you want to hear again after it's done. So I'm going to start with the sun, which is our focal point of awareness. It's where the energy is, where the neutrinos are. It's over 70, 80% of the focus of this realm. Wherever the sun is, it brings us that focus and energy. And it's also ruled by gold. So gold is actually the metal that's imbued with this particular code. It's a light, it's a functional light, and it manifests through gold in this realm. That's how we find gold in the earth and we bring it out. When you wear gold on your person, it expands the aura. It's so powerful. And so the sun is the focal point of awareness, and it brings us our self-awareness, and we represent it by an objective intelligence with our goals and with our will and what we do. And so that's the sun. The other light, the other main light is the moon. And the moon, of course, is symbolic of silver. So silver is also something we find on the earth, but it's something that has reflective qualities. The moon is a mirror in the sky. It takes on the light of whatever planetary aspects are happening and it imbues it, passes it along to the other planets. It moves the quickest. And so it's a quicksilver of sorts. And so the moon is the other main light of reality. Now, reality is coded with 10 different functional lights. Now, as sun and the moon are very important through mundane astrology, which is what me and Gary are doing today, we're framing our particular focus on finance and world politics and geopolitics through this frame of mundane astrology. So in this sense, the sun is symbolic of our leaders. So think about that because we're going to talk about the leaders of different countries a little and these negotiations or wars that are seemingly occurring but may or may not be, as well as the health of our leaders, that they may be healthier, maybe not, or there's conflicts. And so the sun represents our leaders. And when you have an eclipse of the sun, which we're having one this Sunday and another in a couple weeks, what does that stand for? In the past, in history, it stood for the death of the king. And so that's what an eclipse represents. The king of the land is being eclipsed. The sun is being blackened out. And for this moment of blackened out, the king is not in power. And so a secret knife in the middle, the night comes and takes the life of the king. And so now we don't have, well, whether we do or not, it's just nomenclature, right? But now we have political leaders, and the symbolism of these eclipses is still the same. Nothing's changed. So we may see some changes with our leaders. As far as the moon goes, the moon symbolizes for each country our protectors, the protectors of the country, whoever that may be. For those of you who are familiar with that old 1980s reptilian science fiction show where the scientists were vilified. V. I don't know if you ever saw that V.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the
Oh, you
the
did. That's awesome.
series. Something I actually watched. Yay!
After I said it, I was like, wait a second. Gary doesn't watch anything. Oh, but then you remembered it. So remember in V, like V was fascinating because you didn't know who the true protectors were. Because even working for the bad guys were humans, but they would be secret protectors. You know what I mean? They'd still like help the humans on, on the undercover. And so there's a name for that that came out in the new V series, and it was called the fourth. There's a symbolic name for those who help undercover. Anyway, it's just fascinating idea. So I say that about the moon because the moon represents a protective intelligence, almost like an egg, something that keeps us safe. You know, it's our moon sign. It's how we feel safe doing things. It's where we come from. It's our mother. It's symbolic of the mother. And so in different countries, you know, that's represented by whoever that is. In some cases, it's the mothers, it's those who feed us, you know, it's the food manufacturers, you know. In some cases, it's the police, you know. It's very fascinating. Okay, so moving on. Um, I want to also say that also represented by the sun, and this is arguable, so we don't know yet for sure which, but some say that Bitcoin is ruled by the sun. Some say it's ruled by Saturn. It would make more sense that it would be ruled by Saturn because it's based on Fibonacci sequence. It's not crystal code. It's not, you know what I mean? So it would make more sense. Now, moving to Mercury, Mercury is about when we see it's the messenger of the sun. So the leaders, which represents our sun, we have both false leaders, which are really just entertainers. You know, they're putting on the show. Oh, we're in a big war. We got to do this. We got to do that. There's egomaniacal, you know, stars on the stage. You know, prima donnas. You know, like egomaniacal, just maniacs. And so Mercury is the messenger of the real leaders, you know, the real humans that are in their heart, the real spiritual leaders. And as the messenger, as the emissary of those leaders, Mercury rules humans standing up for what's right. So it rules rebellions, it rules protests. And in the currency world, Mercury is symbolic of, I would say, the ISO 222 coins, a lot of which have Saturnian symbolism. So we'll bleed this into the mix. We'll fill it out into the mix. Mars is symbolic of the military, the defense, security of each nation. Jupiter is one's own personal law that one needs um, to respond to one's own personal law, and it stands for the law of the land as well, the courts, the judicial systems. Saturn rules the legislators, the executives, the punishers of this realm. So Saturn's the judgment on things, the final judgment for this particular realm. Uranus, these are now the planets that are unseen by the naked eye. So their interruptions are more surprising and shocking and unpredictable. And so we have Uranus, which is symbolic of revolutionaries, innovators, inventors. We have Neptune, which represents Navy and sea power. And we've seen some of this recently with some interesting moves to prevent the BRICS nation from getting any bigger, which me and Gary will go into. And then we have Pluto, and Pluto represents and rules reformers, transformers, and destroyers of reality. So when something needs to be brought down to its base level and re-purified and recreated and rebirthed and phoenixed, that's represented by the planet Pluto. And then a couple other definitions that you'll hear me talk about, and I've been talking about all year, so most of you are familiar with it, is the Aries vortex. Aries 0 degrees, Aries 2 degrees. And Aries vortex is a transformation that's occurring, that occurs every 50, 60 years. Usually when it comes together with Neptune and Saturn, it symbolizes either the end of some kind of control ideology or the end of a control ideology. Usually it's communism. And for this present moment, we're dealing with the possibilities of a digital surveillance type of communism coming about. And this finalizes in February of next year. So I'll be continuing to talk about the Aries vanishing point or vortex until next March when it fully comes into being and solidifies itself. with all our goals of, because we're all going through our own Aries vortex goals. And then which is part of the Aries vortex, but adds in a sextile with Uranus and Pluto, which creates a midpoint, which is the Aries vortex. That's called the magic triangle. It's a minor grand trine. It came about July, and it's going to be hit over and over again until next March, and even further out, of course. But and that these are the signifiers of huge vortex shifts in the way that the financial system works and the way world power is working. And this is why Gary and I have focused on financial crashes, because the financial crashes are like, if you can imagine, all the languaging of money is like, it's all what's the term? It's all nautical language. It
Yeah.
has to do with waters and
Maritime.
maritime law. And so it's the currencies, right? The currencies that we're talking about. And so what it is that these vortexes, these even with what we're saying, financial crashes, what do oceans do? What do waves do? They crash. And so this is what it is. And I'll stop there and let Gary respond and share, and then we'll go into our first chart, which will be the eclipse that's coming in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
or should we start with the 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 Virgo, the new moon in August? Should we start with that one?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I mean, the new moon in August, I think, is setting us up um, for the full moon on the 7th, which then takes us to the next new moon, and the duality of the two new moons in Virgo fundamentally, because the new moon just kicked in, I think, just into Virgo on the cusp of Leo, didn't it? And I think the fact that we have two new moons in Virgo at
Sure.
this period is very, very key. Um, because Virgo is often called the maiden, and the maiden for me, at the moment with the divine energy, divine feminine coming online, which it has been really, really strongly, and it's Gaia. Fundamentally, the realm we live in is a female realm, and it's a nurturing realm, or it should be. And the fact that we've got the monetary system, which has been used by the masculine to suppress the feminine in such a way, I think this has connotations moving forward as Gaia is fully online in Virgo the maiden in the divine feminine. And so it's a build up of or suppression of what the bad divine masculine has been playing at while they've been doing their skullduggery and shenanigans over many centuries fundamentally. So yeah, obviously I'm not great with the planets. I've got a couple of notes here. I did a September reading or a September look at what's coming in. Obviously many of you probably seen that, and if you haven't, it's quite interesting. Did it on the pendulum, which is a bit different, and I've also done an update on what came from that. Now, although that wasn't a financial one in any way, shape, or form, it was more about energy and what's coming in. It's all interlinked, and the 22nd of August, which is 22nd stroke 23rd, that new moon in Virgo, that is, I think, key to the beginning of um, where we're now coming up to, which will lead into October. So it's important. Let's put it that way. So if you want to bring that chart up of that initially, I think that's a good start. And again, thank you to Meten for his amazing charts and for the work he does in on the computer to do that. Let me just click on allow. There we go.
Okay, can you see it here?
I can see you're sharing, but yes, it's coming. Yes.
Let me stretch it out because it's They have a new way of sharing on Zoom and it exposes my whole desktop. I don't like that. Okay. So this was the chart for the new moon, August 22nd. And I have it at 11:07. I wonder if I did it exact. Yeah, I did. Okay, awesome. So this is 11:07 p.m. Friday, day of Venus, August 22nd, Virgo new moon. Now, the significant thing about this is the 0 degree new moon. So it's a new beginning, right, in the beginning of Virgo. And that's also, no, it's not where the, I was thinking it was where the Venus star point was, but that's on the Aries vortex. But this is the end of Leo and the beginning of Virgo. So what Gary was saying was that, if I'm understanding you correctly, Gary, is you were talking about a kind of end sequence of a certain patriarchal kind of rule and establishment. And there was an essay by an astrologer a couple years ago who talked about the end, something, I forgot the name of the essay now, but I've talked about it before, the end of the old fathers or something. And it's by an evolutionary astrologer, the founder of evolutionary astrology, one of the founders. And it's about like the end of the Capricorn energy of the past, of that dominant control, the old fathers. And here we're having, this is happening, as Gary was saying, right on the eclipse of Leo. So right on the end, not a literal eclipse, but just the end of the Leo process right here. So it's the beginning of getting close to the beginning of fall, getting close to the end of summer, and it's a new beginning. And Leo is a masculine sign. So it is symbolic, can be symbolic of the patriarchy, and Virgo is a feminine sign. So this is a new beginning, and it's a new beginning in a sense of, Virgo is about, as Gary was saying, symbolic of the maiden or the virgin. And this means that it's a new founded energy. And this new founded energy moves away from the self, which is the focus of Leo, being ruled by the sun, to the rulership of service to others. Now, we know that the message in our time, for those of you who've listened to Gary's work and my own, doing the gene keys or doing the gates in human design, is I talk about, we both talk about how the energy of the evolutionary spirit of humanity is something that moves through all of us. There's no like dividing door or wall between all of us. The mind, the simultaneous mind, like your thoughts are my thoughts or Gary's thoughts, all these energies are moving through us at the same time. Maybe at different coalescence and maybe at different speeds, but ultimately we're all processing the same energies. So when there's a new beginning in a feminine sign like Virgo, and it symbolizes service to others, that means if we want to go forward in our evolutionary process, that we're accepting a new purification. And this is purification of the ego, because now we're moving away from the ego into service to others, where you realize that your thoughts are not just your thoughts, they're also everyone's fears and hopes and dreams. And your safety is also this person's safety. And so the line between us starts to dissolve as we acknowledge service and care for others. And it really happens. I mean, Gary and I were talking about this before the show. I had a buddy who gone through some shit in this last couple of days. I helped him out through some stuff, you know what I mean? Like I helped him out through,
Yeah.
which is no different than that me needing that at some point in the future, or have needed that in the past. And there was no distinction between me and him. He needed support. So I'm going to support that. And now that we're in September, we're in Virgo, it's a time of service and supporting others, because there are other energies coming into this purification of Virgo. Really, the fundamental grounding message, at least from my perspective, theme of this new moon cycle, which begins here at this chart on August 22nd, and it will go through until the March full moon in Pisces, or in Virgo, sorry, in Virgo, which will end the cycle, is that we're creating new healthy daily habits and rituals. And we're purifying our diet and eating right, and thus moving forward with our own health and well-being so we could be strong in order to deal with what comes next.
Yeah.
And because we're dealing with these eclipses and we're dealing with more changing energies. But I'll stop right there for Gary, if you want to add some stuff, Gary.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. You use the term virgin with the Virgo. Okay. Now, in our modern context, virgin, we all know what it means. But actually, when you go back in time, virgin actually meant wise woman. And the wise woman who lived on the outskirts, who would have been classed as potentially a witch or a seer or had psychic abilities, would have been known as the virgin. And often a woman who was a single parent would be called a virgin back in the day. And so we have this duality of language, that the meanings have been changed slightly, which is very interesting. But when we take that connotation of Virgo's just come in, who's the maiden, who's the wise woman, who who has the knowledge and the understanding and the memory of what has been, to create a change that can, some wisdom that can be impacted and placed into everybody to guide us into something completely new, or to remember what has been. It's very, very fascinating. And again, Leo for me was about the divine masculine beginning to come online. You know, um, we have far more women as truthers in this community. What awake, are women. 90% women, 10% male, literally. And although you don't see that on YouTube or anywhere else, perhaps because you know you see men on YouTube doing their truth stuff, but actually, the reality is that men are a small percentage, 10% of what makes up this movement. And so Leo for me was about waking the men up, even if it was subconsciously, and give them a good poke for the divine feminine, the wise woman, to come in and to start leading, and the men to start to follow and wake up, and continue that growth and birth of things that are coming online and beginning to come online now, that I think we're going to see in the future. So yeah.
Yeah, well said. I won't add too much else to the chart, except one thing we see here is with this Virgo cycle is the opposing energy is in Pisces. And we've talked about this before. The North Node destiny is in Pisces and the South Node destiny is in Virgo. So this is also represents a purification of the mind, of being overly dependent on the mind. This is like a clearing of the mind. And also, again, as I've mentioned, the whole thematic for this year and a half cycle where the North Node is in Pisces is about allowing, the veil that that Pisces has, allowing that veil to be, and the trust, not to use the mind and to like try and, get underneath the veil and see what's happening, instead to feel intuitively through your personal authority, your human design authority in your body, what is happening. So instead of to think through it, to feel through it. So again, it's also in an earth sign. So it's again that reminder of every day spending time with nature. So your field recalibrates itself. And so it clears all the toxin of all this social media and internet usage, and blue light usage. And so that you're getting back, you're creating that space and time to get back in your body and process and absorb the frequencies, the crystalline frequencies that we're moving into, and leaving that Fibonacci frequency behind, which is not us, which is attempting to catch us in its web. But we're shifting our frequency to a different density.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Because let's be very clear, the Fibonacci sequence is a male energy, predominantly a male energy, and the crystalline or the Chris code, the creational energy is female. And so we really are at that point. And again, for those who don't quite understand what we're talking about, I have got videos and I'm going to do a Chris code one in the very near future because we're at the cusp of the split. Um, the Fibonacci sequence, when you see like the snail shell, that's not really the Fibonacci sequence. That's actually the Chris code. But because they both look so similar, you couldn't tell them apart until you overlay them, and then you can see a difference very clearly. But it's only at the seventh point or the seventh period of mathematical equation where we get to get the split. And we're at the seventh point now. We really are. Um, Now, I'm not talking like astrology wise as such here, though I'm sure it does have a huge bearing on this. I can't quite work out how we are because, again, our dates and the calendars and everything else have all been played with. So, to understand exactly where we really truly are is very difficult. But what we can do is by observation and understanding of these principles, see where we are. And again, Virgo coming in, divine feminine, crystalline code, the creational code. Very powerful, very, very powerful. And this is setting up change. As far as I'm concerned, this is the setup of change now because Gaia's online and Gaia has been suppressed for thousands of years. You know, at least 4,000, 6,000 years or so, Gaia's been suppressed. And so Gaia is coming back online. And we're going to see the signs more and more often and more clearly. And this, for me, is one of those defining dates where when we look back through the fog that we can't see through, we'll be able to see it. But at the moment, I'm using the feel. What does it feel like to me? Because we have no clarity through our eyes at the moment at all, because the noise and the fog is so dense with the multi layers of confusion that we're given.
yeah, we're doing the best. We're groping in the dark, really.
Yeah,
And that's the symbolism of an eclipse. No one really knows what goes on during eclipses because the sun is blackened out, so we can't really see. Even on the psychic level, we're partially stifled. But we will have a moment this month between the eclipses where there will be some ability to see, and we'll go over that. I'm going to pull up the eclipse chart now, Gary.
yep. Is that the seventh?
Yeah, this is the day after tomorrow. So this is the eclipse that's coming up that all of you are really feeling. I mean, and it is, as far as impact in your life, this is the most powerful eclipse of the month because it symbolizes endings. So I'm sure many of you are feeling that. I just told you guys a buddy of mine just escaped a situation that was pretty horrific. And we were talking and I was like, you got to get out of there before the eclipse. And he did. So it was awesome. And it's the culmination of that event because the full moon builds and builds and builds and builds. And even before it culminates in its exactitude, it's already over, it's already hit. And so it's already eclipsed, like the ending is there. And it's the ending of whatever was before. And so that's what it is. And in this chart, what we can see here is this is for Washington, D.C. And let me see if I got the exact moment of this eclipse. This is right before. This is maybe an hour before. You could see the moon at 14 degrees and the sun at 15. So this is right before. Sometimes I like to do charts like this right before the hit. And so this is one of those moments. And this is in Washington, D.C. This is 12:25 p.m. So it'll hit around maybe 2 o'clock, 3 p.m. for Washington, D.C. time. And then you guys could change that for wherever you're at. And so what you can see here is the moon is right there close up to the North Node in Pisces. So the moon's given us the message of what Gary said, following the intuition, trusting how we feel, and feeling the sensations in our body, knowing how we feel, checking in with ourselves. And Jupiter, and the moon represents again our protective intelligence. So, we're taking care of ourselves. We're feeling what we're feeling and allowing ourselves to feel it no matter what. And then Jupiter, which stands for our personal law and the law of the land, is in Cancer. And it's in trine with the eclipse. So it's working with it. It's expanding that protective nature. So take care of yourself during these eclipses. Usually traveling is a little during eclipses, so be extra careful. And traveling is symbolic of Mercury. And we see Mercury is, and also the ninth house. And that's where Jupiter is, giving its blessing in the ninth for this period of time. And then Mercury, we see that Mercury is close to the sun because it's slowly moving towards a Cazimi with the sun on the 13th and 14th. But that's not yet. So what we have in this eclipse right here is we have Virgo and Moon, the same tension we've already been talking about. This is the tension between the mind and your feelings. And here the feelings wins out. It's important that the feelings win out because the mind will just take you over and take you to other places out of the body. So remember to breathe, come back into your body, into your protective intelligence of the moon and the North Node. That will win the battle for this time. And you could see there is a square in this chart between Jupiter and Mars. So tempers could fly out of control. Military situations could occur. With Mars squaring Cancer, we do have some military events occurring geopolitically. And that's Mars overreaching itself, doing too much, right? Jupiter's like just wants to expand, and it touches Mars, and Mars overreaches itself. The military is trying to do too much in different countries. It's trying to bully someone over here in this country. It's trying to bully someone over there and make it look like they're threatening to do this or that. So things are destabilizing during this cycle because Mars establishes its boundaries. Mars is the military saying, you can't go further than here. This is our territory. We don't want you to do this. So we're going to come in and we're going to bully you, and that's what's going on. Gary, you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I want to put a little bit of context on that and on some real world things that are actually happening that we can observe from this energy. Okay. So I think it's really important that if we kind of put some context into that of something that's happening and something that we can see and something that makes what Meten expertly and really cleverly and clearly expressed in the context of money this time. Okay, we have had an issue with America and India. America wanted 50% tariffs on India and started to push India. Now, India is part of the BRICS nations, which again is very, very key to what's going on at the moment. Um, it's a background thing. The press don't talk about it, but this really is a big, big thing. So India is one of the founding fathers almost of the BRICS nations, hence the I in BRICS. And America is obviously trying to redefine its position in the world at the moment because America is fundamentally in trouble. The fiat currency is dying rapidly. Now, India were pushed too far by Trump and he hurt their feelings. And so what did they do? They ran. Literally, Meten said it, it's like, oh my God, if he just said, America overstepped the boundary, upset India's feelings, and so they ran into what was comfort. They got the comfort hug from a source that was not necessarily expected, which was China. And we have the SCO meeting, which is the Shanghai Cooperation, I think it's organization or something like that, but the SCO happening in China. And so for the first time in 7 years, seven again, it's always an interesting number, seven, we have the Prime Minister of India stepping foot in China, meeting up face to face with the Chinese president, but Putin as well. We have, all the big players really of the Shanghai Cooperation, but we also have additional nations. There's actually 24 nations in the Shanghai Cooperation meeting that's been going on. And you could really see the build up to this energy at the moment was created such a powerful meeting and such, which will potentially be a very, very fruitful meeting for these 24 nations. And these 24 nations represent 40% of the world's population. So this is no small meeting. And although that's not BRICS as such, the duality of many of them being in BRICS, and certainly all of these nations being able to trade in BRICS, which means, and trading in BRICS means they're not trading in dollars. This is a non-dollar, non-SWIFT compatibility. Pound, euro are not compatible within the BRICS system. These are nations forging relationships out of the bullying and pushing of and finding comfort in themselves, which is exactly what the chart is now showing. But obviously we have the build up to that. We have the energy builds, and that building up of the energy has created what we're now seeing, which is really, really fascinating. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further with a little bit more information regarding India, because I think this is really key to us moving forward with the dollar problems that we're going to talk about a little bit later, because the dollar, the pound, the euro, that they're in big trouble. India, because of the bullying, and it is bullying by America. And remember, and this is, I'm not having to go at America. This is just how I see it. This is just the information that comes up. Okay, America has 4.3% of the world's population, and America has put 24 countries together via its tariff systems and the use of the politicized use and the weaponized use of the dollar, pushed them together with the BRICS nations, pushed them together to create something that is tariff free, sanction free, and that allows them to trade freely without having to use dollars. Now, India has just started selling its USA debt bonds. So for countries to trade with America being the reserve currency, they tend to have to hold reserve. The money they make, they tend to buy the reserve dollar debt bonds so that they have a balance, or they're in the good books of America. And this allows the trading of and the monetary systems to flow. And obviously, if there's some kind of problem, because these countries are holding dollars as in debt, they always have some form of currency in which they can pay back these debts. So it's kind of like an insurance policy for both sides, as if you want. But America gets a better deal out of it for sure, because, how can I put it? It keeps the dollar artificially strong.
Okay.
But also that causes problems with the dollar, because an artificially strong dollar means that manufacturing costs are higher, and so it's more difficult to sell stuff. Hence why India, China, Vietnam, these countries are manufacturing hubs, because the labor is cheap, the currency is weak compared to the dollar, and so businesses can make more money manufacturing and selling stuff back into America using this debt system. Now, India's had enough, and they've started selling USA debt bonds. Now, I think they've only sold something like 6 billion so far. I think they hold something like 360 billion. So, not a huge amount, but significantly, the 6 billion they sold, they purchased gold with it.
Wow. Who are they selling the bonds to, Gary? Do you know? Do we
Back,
know?
back to America. They return them back to America, and the America has to give them fundamentally the credit for it, and that credit they took back as gold
Okay, got it.
because it's fundamentally credit, isn't it? They're holding American dollars for America, and so I mean, there's something called Operation Sandman, and we haven't really talked about that for a very long time, and that probably people have forgotten about that. But apparently, Operation Sandman is like 100 odd nations, and over one weekend at some point specifically, all these 100 nations have a fundamental agreement, and whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I am getting flesh of the goose on this one that all 100 or 109 10 nations will sell or require the return of their dollars for their currency or gold from America. And so that would literally flush trillions of dollars worth of cash straight back into America, devalu- devaluing the purchasing power of the dollar overnight, creating hyperinflation, and America would collapse within 1 week financially.
Now we know that both sides want this
We do.
because
That's the
America,
oxymoron of it all, isn't it?
the stock, you said oxymoron, the
Yeah,
paradox of it, no, for sure, because they want collapse. They foster, this country fosters and supports its rebellions because it wants to control them. So it decides where and when it wants a rebellion, it wants destruction or purification of an area. And it wants a financial collapse so that it can what? So that it can reset.
yeah,
What does this reset look like? Me and Gary have been talking about this for a while now, of what this reset, many have talked about what this reset looks like. We don't know ultimately exactly what it's going to look like, but we know what they're doing as far as at least what's being shared on the stage. We know countries are purchasing gold. This country is too. Silver as well. We know silver is needed. So it looks to all eyes like there's going to finally be a foundation for a financial system, or at least a partial foundation is what it looks like with all this purchasing of gold and silver and perhaps all this derivative financing, banking coming to either a partial end or a full end. We don't know how they're exactly going to organize this system, but astrologically, the planets as symbolic markers of time and representing these particular currencies, right? In some cases, the
yeah,
sun, gold, the moon, silver, Saturn, Bitcoin, to all probability, the ISO 222 coins, Mercury, and they have some Saturnian symbolism, but mainly Mercury is for XRP. And so we know that all these things are occurring, so they'll be a part of the system. All these like planetary movements are showing us that, yeah, gold will be a part of it, silver will be a part of it, Mercury, you know, the cryptocurrencies, right, for Mercury and Saturn. So all that's going to be involved. What's fascinating to me is that this derivative system that we've had, ever since the gold standard was taken away, and even before with the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1912, 1913, the act, is that's based on, in a way, it's based on more Neptunian and you're honest, like planets that you can't see, right? Deception. That would be Neptune, deception. Deceptive practices, we have money, but we don't. We create it out of thin air,
yeah,
right? Creating something out of thin air is creating it in another reality first, so you have a fictional construct where you're creating something, but you created it. So how does it really even exist if it's not bound to gold or silver like in the past? So our concept of modern money is Neptunian, it's Piscean, it's illusory, You know, it's a construct. It's an agreement that we all make, you know, and we even have money like that. Cryptocurrency, arguably based on based on something that's dead, right? Is in essence kind of ruled very, it's a similar process. I mean, we agree that it has value because it's a means of exchange through electrical means, you know, across the plane, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's all very fascinating to me when I see, you know, all these nautical metaphors being used for the movement of the planets as well as the movement of our currencies, because they need to move. We buy things, countries buy things, you know, we sell things, we trade, you know, all that needs to move. So it's a nautical world where there's ships continually moving and waves and crashes and crests and so it's like this world where things are going to have to be continuously exchanged, but now there's going to be new mediums. The ships are going to look different, right? From one continent to another. How will the money, you know, the money, the construct be transferred? You know, what are the new mediums? We're it could be argued that we're already in this kind of digital surveillance system because we're already doing that. We're already using cryptos and credit cards and PayPals and Stripes and you know what I mean? And Venmos. So is it going to look much different than we already have? You know, we hope it's not going to look like the model that, you know, the East carries, you know, or is seeming to be creating. But I'll stop there and we'll go to another chart. Anything else to add? I don't think I have anything else to add to this
No,
chart.
I mean, I have got a little bit on tether, which is really quite
Oh yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, yeah.
Right. I mean, tether. So what do you do when you tie a boat to the shore or the dock? You tether it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
That's
Right
a-
now tether hasn't been audited because tether, I think, is based in the Bahamas. So tether, I think, was the third largest purchaser of American debt bonds recently
that's right. That's right.
because nobody else wants to buy them. Where Tether got the money from to purchase that is questionable, but probably likely from their profits. Now, Tether stroke stablecoin, um, you know, all the stable coins, you know, I think because isn't the stable coins part of the Tether or Tether's part of the stable coins? I'm not quite sure because people use the word Tether and then stable coin the same sort of thing. How, is stablecoin part of Tether? Is Tether the controller of stablecoin?
I don't know that exactly either. There's different types of stable coins,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
so I don't know. But I know Tether was one of the main ones, or is
Yeah,
one of the main ones.
yeah. So, but Tether's really, really strange, right? Now, we're talking about Bitcoin, Tether, whatever, okay? And they're Bitcoins, they're coins, and they're a derivative of gold stroke silver. They're
That's
just
right.
another,
That's right. You had said that before. Yeah, let's do it. That's
yeah.
brilliant. Go
So
ahead. Go
so
ahead.
so that they are just fundamentally another form of fiat currency, a creational currency out of nothing but hopium because they're not backed by anything. But this is the kicker, right? Tether is now owns US treasuries. So in effect, Tether has dollars being stored within itself or as part of its control mechanism where it can go and cash those dollars in for whatever it wants. So is Tether really a coin? You know, is it really digital? And this is where it gets really, really funny. And I think, well, a crock, and it really is. In Zurich, Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, sorry, Tether, in Zurich, Tether has a bank vault with 8.7 billion dollars worth of gold. So they have physical gold in Zurich that they're holding. Now, you could say that's great because in the future, if it all goes tits up, they actually have some physical, real money. Okay. But I thought we are talking digital. I didn't think we are talking gold. I didn't, so what way do you want it? So even digital coin, a company like Tether has reverted back to gold because the owners of that company know that when things crash in Zurich, they have a nice nest egg where they can waltz in and take hold of something that's physical and not in the metaverse and walk out very rich people. And that's the way I see it, cynical as I am. So what are your thoughts on that, Meten? Because obviously 8.7 billion in physical gold in the Zurich um, vault is no small potatoes.
It just reminds me of an analogy of like, think about it like this. This is fun. And this works for any system. It's like, think about baseball cards in the 90s, right? As they were 80s and 90s, probably around before they super saturated the markets in the 90s. In the 80s, baseball cards got really popular, okay? And at some point, certain cards, were building in value, and they were older cards from like the 70s. And these cards were building and building in value. And, there's people that own the baseball card shops, right? Now, what do you think they had in their safes? Do you think they had cash money or do you think they had baseball cards? You see what I'm getting at? People were trading baseball cards as if it was a currency, exchanging them. Oh, this is my favorite baseball card. Oh, you got that rookie. I want that one. I want all the, I want all the players on the Mets. I want all the rookies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's an analogy for like a new financial currency, right? So baseball cards among children, among kids, high school kids, elementary school kids mostly, it became like a game of money and value, right? And fun. And but we know that the owners of the baseball card shops, now that I think about it, back in the 80s, they had their shops, but they had money in the safe. They didn't have baseball cards.
no.
And maybe there was some ancient, or some older mint, Mickey Mantle or Hank Aaron rookie cards they had, that were worth a lot. But when it came down to it, after a while, those baseball card shops closed. And there's still some open here and there to this day, with comic books and stuff, but ultimately, there's not that many around. It's not as popular as it was. Now, those who were smart and sold their businesses, did they walk away with cards or did they cash it all in and keep their money? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's the same thing. It's like you create something new and fun like cryptocurrencies, and it's cool. It's cool. Baseball cards, you pass it around, you talk about it, you have fun investing, it's a huge game of ups and downs, it's very dramatic, it's very emotional, it's a nice roller coaster ride. But these companies, these baseball card owners, right, or like shop owners, what do they own? Do they own those cryptocurrencies or are they using those cryptocurrencies to purchase what you said?
physical metals,
And
the
so
real
what do they
money.
think in safe? Do they have do they have digital currencies in their safe? No. They have metals. Metals which symbolize the sun, the moon, right? And as you have said in other videos, when you said that these cryptocurrencies, cash, all these like digital systems of currency, like they're all derivatives, right? They're not actual value. They're value, but they're derivatives of one central value, right? The sun, which gives us the energy, which gives the life force, right? Creates the life force. And in essence, it reminds me of the Dead Can Dance song called Children of the Sun. These derivative currencies, they're all children of the sun.
Yeah,
The sun's the ultimate determiner of value. It is the value. But also in this realm, like I have to add in that, Saturn is the first in old times, in ancient times, in Hellenistic astrology, Saturn is the first. Saturn is the first planet. And we've known from our own researching that there's all this talk that Saturn rules this realm, right? It's a Saturnian realm. It's a physical reality. The sun is like a gate that allows in the light for the souls to animate in these bodies that are ruled by Saturn. So the soul is ruled by the sun, but the bodies, how this realm is physicalized, is ruled by Saturn. So that's why we also have Saturn coins and Saturn symbolism, because the metal that Saturn rules is lead. And lead blocks out the capacity to spiritually see. It blocks out the third eye. You can't see, you can't feel beyond a lead wall. It 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 guards frequency. It stops frequencies from moving. So I'm sure I wasn't that clear, but it's just a metaphor that's coming out right now as I'm talking about it. But that's how I see it. It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
And
And
and the insights of it being derivatives, you
and
know.
lead that blocks out all of that is actually solidified uranium.
Interesting.
So something is always from something else. But the source of lead is uranium, and if you don't have uranium, you don't have any lead. And if you don't have any gold, you don't have any money or fiat currency. You don't have any cryptcoin. You don't have anything else because the gold is the real. And again, silver is as well. I mean, don't forget that I think the Jewish word for money is silver, and in the United Kingdom, it's sterling. Our money is sterling, sterling silver.
This may be too abstract, but when we push it further as an adage, as a philosophical adage for the nature of reality, something is always a symbol for something else. We're speaking right now in words, but our words are attempting to grasp abstract concepts which symbolize what we're talking about, which have actual reality. But in order to convey an understanding, we have to use like these abstract metaphors. We have to use these conceptualizations of physical things, but through language, we're still not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
We're we're off a little,
yeah,
because we're talking about it. It's moving how it's moving in the world underneath the rays of the sun and the lights of all the planets. Its frequency is moving according to those movements, and we're doing our best to communicate the understanding of those movements.
yeah.
But understanding itself is an attempt to grasp something in movement. We can barely grasp it, is what maybe I'm getting too abstract and
It's
philosophical.
like trying to grasp water, isn't it? You can
Yeah, I
feel
know.
it, you can touch it, and in different states it can be hard. But ultimately, if you hold on to the water long enough in your hand, it will always drain away.
And that's the ultimate Plato of reality. Like Plato is something, the Plato of how reality is formed and molded and put together from its clay. It is a type of water. Neptune is symbolic of the nature of reality, an imaginative fluid that we use Saturn to construct into physical realities. So the ultimate nature of reality is what Neptune stands for: the oceans, the
Yeah.
deep, the water, the currencies.
And that's why they call it the currencies, I think, because they've always known the controlling forces of the Babylon cursed monetary system that we're currently under, that you can never hold that currency, that current, that water in your hand. It will always slip away, and it'll slip away somewhere else to create something else.
And that's why even our usage of money is very fluid,
Yes,
for the whole outdated concepts of I have this much money, you have that much money. I don't have this much money and you don't have that much money. It's always in flux and movement. It's dead if it's not moving hands. It's
correct.
not traded or exchanged or utilized. The utilization itself is the life force and movement.
Yeah,
Hoarding, that's why hoarding money or hoarding physical things is like, we'd all do that to some degree, I imagine, but the movement of it is what creates the flow of life.
yeah.
Receive the rays of the sunlight, actually riding on these currents and seas. So yeah, that's fascinating, man. We're
That is.
getting too
Yeah, no, yeah. Let's go on to the next slide because I mean, I obviously want to talk about gold and silver more, and and I've got a lot more to go on with the gold and silver. But but that's just interesting that what Meten said about the seventh and the building and how he described it is exactly what we see with the SCO currently, BRICS nations, and how things are headed in that way. So anyway, yeah. So what date's this? Is this the 21st or 22nd?
No, we're doing this is the Cazimi on
Ah, the
September 3rd.
13th.
Yeah. So we talked about this, me and Gary talked about this. It's like a little interim period between the chaos of the eclipses. And so we wanted to bring that to your guys' attention if you're not already aware. On the 13th, 14th, for some reason when I move it, oh yeah, now that I move it, I can't see the exact date, but it's around the 13th, 14th that Mercury will come into Cazimi with the sun. That means that the sun, when any time a planet goes into the sun, it gets burned and it experiences a death, a rebirth, a phoenixing of sorts. So when it's at the exact point, it's completely purified and dying and dead. And so only its essence is surviving its soul. And so there's a certain power in that. And so Mercury's soul, its awareness, its as the emissary of the sun, will be in its most intuitive apprehension of what is happening in the world. And so in that moment, there will be like a psychic overlay or a psychic opening. So these are days that we can meditate and we can really go somewhere and get some good hits of like a precognitive hits of the future, what's going to be occurring. Because Uranus is opening this up in Gemini as well. And it is, Gemini is square with Virgo, but it's not an exact square in this particular case. But that's where it's happening in the middle of the Virgo. So again, we continue with this Virgo cycle where we have the new moon in August, and then we have this Cazimi in Virgo where the mind overreaches itself and is able to expand itself and logic collapses, and we have a precognitive glances at the future. So it's a very special time in this month. And then we'll have a renewal and a whole nother new moon eclipse on September 21st.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what's particularly interesting, not monetary wise necessarily, but we've got to remember that everything's linked. You know, the butterfly effect. You know, a butterfly can flap its wings in Mexico, and there can be a hurricane in China. We know that with geoengineering and stuff, it doesn't work that way as such, but we have the butterfly effect, and this is a multi-dimensional, multi-faceted realm that we live in. And fundamentally, what we're looking here is an expansion of seeing something. But not only do we have that at this date in London, which for the UK is quite an important day, obviously, is there's a march, a freedom march, a freedom rally going on in London. And I'm getting flesh of the goose on this. Now, there could be some shenanigans, there may not be. And I'm not saying shenanigans from the people attending. I'm talking about governmental interference. And remember, government governs the mind. That's what government means. It's just mind control. You know, the deflection of and the illusion of. You know, it's no different to money. You know, government and money are the same thing, really, aren't they? They're just mind control, govern of the mind. You think something's a reality when in actual fact it's completely different. Now, this period, although it's not monetarily connected particularly, could be key to social political events that then have a knock-on effect of the money. And so, how can I put this? If from this event, everybody who attended decided that they're not going to work on the Monday, and there was a national strike and everyone's shut down, say, that shutdown would have such an effect on the country of the United Kingdom at the moment in our critical position because we are fundamentally on our knees and our government has created this position on purpose. And we'll talk about this in a little while, after another slide, because we will go into the political stuff a little bit later because we have to. But the ramifications of these low big effects in the personal, but little effects really when you take the global or the realm wide connotations of it, mean that this could create ripple effects that we can't quite understand, but are very, very important, especially when it's freeing the mind. And we get onto this later on with the 21st and 22nd.
Yeah. I'm going to add to that because Gary was brought up the protest. So you guys can see the astrology in action. So as I said in the beginning of this broadcast, that Mercury is symbolic of rebellions. It's the voice of the people. It's the emissary of the true leaders of the sun, which could also be symbolic of false leaders. So Mercury in the heart of the sun is the rebellion coming to the leaders, coming for them to have to deal with. And it's in a very and as Gary mentioned, what's happening in Britain, like that's incredible. I mean, that's it happening right there. That's the peak of it. And it could be happening elsewhere as well. So be aware of that. And it's up in opposition to the North Node. So it's the South Node. So it's based on karma and the history, what's been going on in Britain in the last couple of years, last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and all the shit that the people have had to deal with. And it's coming to a head, and they're done with it. Virgo South Node, we're sick of it. We're sick of this. This is not correct.
Yeah,
We're going to move forward in a different direction.
yeah,
And now, as Gary mentioned, we'll go on to the 21st, 22nd. Now, in preparation for that, I want to show you this chart in movement. So we have Mars in Libra, and it's in Libra right now, presently. And Mars in Libra wants to protest for the rights of everyone. It loves to protest. It loves to speak up for justice and the balance of the scales, is what Libra is symbolic of. And Mars likes to establish boundaries. This is mine, this is yours, this is correct, this is not, this is just. And so in Libra, that's what's happening. Now, around the 18th, 19th, around this next chart I'm going to put up, Mars will be in Scorpio. We'll be moving into Scorpio. Once it moves into Scorpio, it will square Pluto. And Pluto's in Aquarius, 1 degree. And I think Pluto is retrograde. So it'll be moving back. I don't know if it'll go as far back as Pisces, maybe. But regardless, once Mars squares Pluto, there will be total war on some levels. Because every time Mars meets Pluto in the sky and inside of us, what that means is that there's an opposition, there's a tension, someone gets in your way, and there's a battle. And Mars versus Pluto is kind of like Mars is establishing boundaries, and then Pluto's like, what you're doing, you don't need to do. We're just going to destroy it all, and so there's different agendas that come into relationship. And some people take this side, and some people take the other side, and some people take the position of the observer and just observe what's occurring. But there will be geopolitical boundaries made and created. And think about that in line with the eclipse, another eclipse that's coming on the 21st, symbolic of our leaders and being eclipsed. Could there be a death of a leader this month? I mean, that's the symbolism of an eclipse. So we'll see. So I'll pull up the next chart if you want to add to that at all.
no, no, that was perfectly put, much better than I did.
No, I don't think so. Okay, so let's stop share. With my red glasses, I can't see where it says stop share because it's in red. I should be able to see red with red glasses. I don't understand. Okay, so let me put the next chart. So this is September 21st. This is the final eclipse of this year. And this one, the eclipse we went over was a 15-degree Pisces eclipse, conjunct the North Node. This one is in Virgo, and it's 28, 29 degrees. And it's going to be opposing the Aries vortex. And so this is something really intense. What the heck did I just do? Can you see anything, Gary?
I can see your screen, but I can't see the chart.
It's because I didn't make the chart big. That was the problem. Okay. Give me a sec to make the chart big.
You can kind of see with what Meten's talking about at the moment, why we're focusing on the money so much at the moment, because the turmoil creates this wave, and again, money's liquid, this wave of of uncertainty, and with the political issues and the different agendas going on, we can really see that certain things are going to take a big squeeze with these energies, the way Meten's going to explain them, and the way I see what's going on as well. This is it's literally like setting something up for the fall. You know, the emperor has no more clothes, literally, and we're seeing is the clothing, the stitching falling from the clothing. And I'm not saying the clothes have quite fallen off yet, but they're coming down.
So you guys can see this tension right here. It looks like, I love the shape. It's like a diamond almost, or some kind of hexagonal shape. So you could see here's the eclipse, which is another new moon, again in Virgo, but instead of the beginning of Virgo, this is the end of Virgo. And I forgot to mention before, but in the first new moon that was on August 23rd, some of you may have noticed that I had the asteroid Requiem, and it was right at 1 degree Virgo. So the whole new moon cycle has the asteroid Requiem. Requiem means death. So just another layer of meaning and symbolism here. In this case, Requiem is up to 9 degrees Virgo, but it's not conjunct this particular eclipse, the solar eclipse, new
Nines
moon.
are ending, by the way, aren't they? Numerically, nines are endings.
That's right. That's right.
So Requiem is at 9 degrees. The ending is at the ending.
And it's a ninth month. September is the ninth month. Probably not its real number, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
fun. And some other things to see here is, so we see, you see here, there's this opposition with the Aries vortex, the Aries vanishing point, and the full moon, the new moon eclipse. So it's a new beginning that is in oppositional tension with where everything is now emerging from. So, you know, the new digital financial system is trying to come into play. And this new moon is a new way, and it's in tension with it. So it's in opposition. So there's a fight that takes place. And so this fight is taking place between, we want to do this new financial system and this new purification of service to others, you know, the Virgo symbolism, caring for others, and discrimination, you know, doing it right. Okay, maybe we'll do it, but we got to do it right. And we got to do it with the people in mind, because another thing I forgot to mention is the fixed star Regulus was also conjuncting the first Virgo new moon, which is a star of royalty. And now that it's no longer in Leo, the fathers, you know, the masculine, the patriarchy systems, it's moving into Virgo. So a system that's more, you know, more in service to mankind, you know, to the feminine awareness of the earth, of Gaia. And so what we have here then is this tension, this opposition. And you could see the North Node in Pisces is not too far from the Aries vortex there. And so that means the South Node in Virgo is on the other side as well. And you could see right there, Mars is 29 degrees Libra, not quite in Scorpio. So probably around the 22nd, 23rd, and Gary had some intuitive hits in his recent videos around those dates. And those are the dates when Mars is going to go into Scorpio. Once Mars goes into Scorpio, things are going to be set off. Because as you can see, That's going to be an exact square to Pluto. And you can see that 90-degree angle right there. And that tension is also going to be, let's see, what else? We have Venus is going to be at the original new moon point at 2 degrees Virgo. So expansion will be happening with the imprint of the old cycle as well. And Venus is our finances. So Venus is on the new moon, so it's a new perception, a new way of our finances as well. So all this is connecting, and Jupiter and Cancer's very exalted there. And it's playing into this as well because it is in square with Mars, but that square is waning. So I had already brought it up in the Cazimi, but now it's waning away, and Mars's focus is going to be total war with Pluto. And so sides will be taken, and we're going to see some more fireworks at the end of this month. And that will translate into economics because war is economics,
Yes.
So go ahead, share, Gary.
Yeah. So obviously the 21st, it's new moon, solar eclipse in Virgo. And it brings in the potential wave of change, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Now,
it's a new moon.
Mars is in Scorpio as well at that point, isn't it? I think.
On the
And
22nd, day after,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 21st, so 20, it comes in, it's on the cusp. So for me, it's cutting through the noise. And what do I mean by that? When Meten says there's two sides, it could be conflict. The conflict could create the veil to fall, or the last stitches of the emperor's clothes to fall, and people could see, and they might get clarity on what's going on, to see what's really happening behind the scenes. So this has got for me a lot of potential for that wave of change to begin, because the noise is not going to be there. It's not. They're not. How can I put it? It could almost be like what the people are seeing. They suddenly get that glimpse of reality. They suddenly get something that's tangible and real for the first time in their lives. Something that could have happened in the 13th of March. There'll be a ramification, that ripple will come out. And from that will create the doubt and the, oh my God, and they're going to see things. And I think politically, they're going to see things that they're really not going to like. Um, I didn't see it myself today, but we were out today having a lovely day, myself and the Wizard of Oz. And we were sat there having a shandy on a pier in the coast in Cromer, beautiful day, catching the sun, beautiful. And we heard the next table talking about a lady called Angela Rayner, who's just been resigned or left the government in the UK. And so the corruption of the government in the UK and the control mechanisms that they're implying, and the things that they're trying to bring in for their masters financially, we're going to see a wave of things happening. And I do believe this is going to be quite a key period for that, because this then links into exactly the next day for me. So we get this whoosh of you know noise cut through. We're going to start seeing the veil's going to lift, the curtain could be pulled back for a moment, and people suddenly get a glimpse of reality. They might even get the old slap round the face with a wet fish job, crash, oh my God, you know and then we go into the 22nd. And I think the two being so big and so important together really do make a huge change, and something that like I said on the pendulum, I did a September look on the pendulum, and it brought through huge changes, and the there are external forces that we can't even conceive of yet that I think are going to be coming into play around this period of time. And I'm getting flesh of the goose because I'm actually thinking about. I know it sounds absolutely crazy to many, but for the guys and girls, the Femi, beautiful guys, girls who follow us, the Three Eye Atlas is big news, and I think we're going to get bigger news, and I think we're going to start seeing external forces coming in that show things up for what they really are, and it's going to be a very turbulent but very interesting time. And as Meten quite rightly said, if we sit back and observe but do not absorb the energy, we're in for a little bit of clarity during this next few days, just before and obviously just after, because these energies aren't like a switch. They don't just last one day. They last, they build and then they drop, but the ramifications of those things can be felt for, it's up to about 6 months, Meten, these things can last.
Oh yeah, the eclipses, depending on the particular saral cycle, anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to a year to more than 1 year.
Yeah, yeah. So the fact that we have two big periods, two big dates next to each other, bang bang, and we're going to get into the 20 seconds in a little while, because for me that is really key as well. you know it's going to change things drastically. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to change the monetary system, but there could be certain things like, so for instance, the fiat currency, we call our currency is fiat, okay? And fiat means it's backed by nothing apart from hopium and fresh air and faith. Now, could we get that clarity at that point? The understanding suddenly, the masses suddenly understand that their money is actually just faith, and it's not real at all in any way, sense of, you know, and that they've been working their whole lives, toiling, you know, 30, 50, 60, 100 hours a week just to pay bills and pay everything else. And they suddenly get the realization that they've been duped. Can you imagine the anguish and what's going to come from that? And these are the type of energies I think we're going to start seeing and feeling. I think we're going to start seeing this kind of stuff going, particularly with the 22nd. Have you got anything else to add on the 21st, 10?
No, we can go. I don't have a chart for the 22nd because it'll just be the movement. It'll be subtle movements,
Yeah,
but we'll know that Mars will be directly in Scorpio
yeah,
and we'll be at also fall equinox.
yeah, yeah,
It's not necessarily exact, but it's around fall equinox that
yeah,
we categorize it at this time, 22nd. And that's a huge shift of the energy, and everyone knows that, you know. It's the beginning of the fall, right? And what do we look at? What happens during, I mean, need I go over it? I think maybe I can even go over the list. I found my notes on our original financial collapse video, and all the collapses and falls, and during the falls, that such volatility of markets was made evident. And the planets bring in different energies in relations. Uranus brings in the shock waves. Neptune um, is exposed for its illusions. Pluto destroys the entire market, and Saturn brings in the reality check. This is the harsh reality check
yeah,
of what's happening, what happened to your money all your life and your savings and your job, and we all know all this is in limbo, all this is being thrown up into the air, and who knows where it's going to land.
yeah,
And we have this whole other integrated aspect that the planet seem to be constructing these models of humans we call machines, and these computers that we're using are models of us, replications of us, monitors that replicate our ability to see and gaze and take in. It's taking in our information right now as we speak. but it's also providing us with sharing it with the world. So, you have both sides of it, it's an amazing
Yeah.
tool nonetheless. So it looks like we're headed towards another fall, as me and Gary discussed in the other videos. It looks like October is, or rather September is showing us hints and foreshadowing of what can occur in October, November. And we have an October 21st chart to put on for the
That's the
new month.
one. Yeah, yeah. So I'll just go back over on the 22nd on my notes, okay? So
Okay.
on the 22nd, Mars enters Scorpio.
Hold
So
on, you're doing this. Hold on, you're doing this for the October chart?
no, no, this is the 22nd. So
Okay.
this is the next day, literally. So we looked at the chart for the 21st, and the next day, literally, Mars enters Scorpio and the Sun enters Libra. And this builds determination and willpower and a willingness to take action. So literally the day before, something could be seen, the veil could be dropped. We suddenly see this determination and willpower of the this is the energy coming in, and then we see the willingness to take action. The two being one day after the other doesn't give the people time to think. There's no processing time. There's no time to go back and sit back and think, in a week's time when, or 3 or 4 or 5 days later, when that energy could be coming in. It's bam, bam, you know? And for me, that's the key point about this. It's the double whammy of it, you know. So on the 22nd, the sun's going to be in Libra. And this questions, who are you? What's your identity and what's your purpose? And this goes back to exactly what we were saying on the 21st, when it's you're cutting through the noise, you know, the potential wave of change. Something's coming up. Hello, everybody. Well, this is the end of part one. Meten and I did such a long video, we've actually cut it into two. So we've decided to naturally end it at this point. And there'll be a second video coming out very, very shortly with the part two, which will be 4. So this is the end of number 3, our third monetary one, and the part 4 will be coming out soon after. So just thought I'd give you this little message at the end, just so you thought, oh, it just finished just like that. So there we go. So thank you very much. Love, light, and blessings, everybody. And I shall see you, and Meten will see you on the 4th one that's coming out soon after we've dropped this one. So thank you very much. Love, light, and blessings.